Hello and welcome back to the Not Last Chance Fantasy Podcast. We are the last place fantasy football podcast. If you watched last week, we had a little bit of a therapy session. The former champ was on. We got a new nickname for the show, apparently, Josh. But we're back.
We are back, and this is not our last chance, but
No
that was actually great to kind of go through a lot of our I guess our biggest
frustration,
questions, frustrations, fears, especially dealing with
anger,
last year.
rage,
Yep, all of it. Just all of it included.
existential dread,
Oh,
hatred.
very much on the existential dread.
Mhm.
That there was a lot of it.
But now we're back to our regularly scheduled program, and we got a good show today.
We do have a good show, and just kind of give y'all a rundown of what's going to be happening. So today is our coaches episode, so we're going to be reviewing all of the first year head coaches from last year, and then previewing a lot of the coaches from this year as well. And then next week we're actually going to be doing our full breakdown of free agency. We wanted to wait until the
More
2
stuff was
plus weeks,
happening.
and yeah, until more
Yeah.
dominoes fell, which it looks like there's still
Oh,
quite a few big
they're
ones.
coming.
Yeah,
They're
they
they're, they're coming.
eventually. But after that, it's draft season, baby, and this is the fun part of football.
Yeah. Speaking of which, a big one that could potentially happen that's going on right now is DeAndre Hopkins to Atlanta.
Yeah,
So I'm going to be following that one very closely as of Wednesday, March, whatever today is. My life has been so crazy. I don't know what the date is.
I will say I know it's Hopkins to Atlanta, Hopkins to Baltimore. There's been a lot of just like
Yeah, but you're
who
only saying that
knows?
because you're a homer.
I say it out of the fact that
You're a homer.
I will book a flight to Baltimore myself and demand answers.
It's all right. Everyone's a little bit of a homer. I'm talking about legit news. You're talking about hopeful news.
No, if there's any hopeful news, it's extension incoming, but who knows that's going to be. But I say let's just get right into the coaches and actually review from last year. We had quite a few coaches that we had two that were hired then fired, which I don't think I've seen that in a year ever.
No,
Which
that's pretty valid.
with those two being Lovey Smith, Nathaniel Hackett. So we'll talk about their replacements coming up. But there's quite a few coaches on the list I think that have greatly impacted fantasy.
Oh yeah, for sure. I
So
mean, let's get right into the first one.
yeah, the first one, I mean, Josh McDaniels, from the Raiders, went 6-11 last year, but had posted QB 17, RB 3, wide receiver 3, and then tight end 30. And also for fun, just fun fact to know and tell, Fabian Moreau, the now starter tight end for the Raiders, was tight end 31 last year.
Okay, so they went lateral, if anything, at tight end.
Yeah, if anything went lateral. I mean, the biggest thing, obviously, Derek Carr is out of there. But when it comes to wide receiver and running back, can't ask for anything more. I also know schematically when they went from Gruden to McDaniels, there there had to have been some like wires getting crossed, and there was a lot
Yeah.
of like scheme like misfits as I would like to say. So but the fact that you're still able to produce a running back and a wide receiver, I think that bodes well for the future.
Yeah, I mean, I'd be interested to know some of the stuff that was going on with Derek Carr. I think the team could have been a little bit better had it not been for Derek Carr. Not that Derek Carr is a bad QB, but just because
I
of some stuff that was going on in the background and also missing Darren Waller to a lot of injuries just kind of held him back, in my opinion. But I thought Josh McDaniels did a good job in
I,
those
I
days.
mean, considering it's going from fourth grade biology to like physics, honestly. What I really do say that I think McDaniel's system is probably one of the most complicated you can ever get in the sport of football. So there had to have been some just under just misunderstandings. And I think that's where
Yeah.
Derek Carr maybe just wasn't up to snuff or just not ready for it. Again, I agree with you. Doesn't mean he's a bad quarterback, but he can be a bad fit. And I think that's exactly what
Yeah,
happened here.
100%. Sometimes the chemistry just as I mean, him and like Devontae Adams had great chemistry. I think it was more like with the coaching staff and maybe some of the other players on the team outside of Devontae Adams would have been the
Yeah,
issue. More so with the coaching staff is what I would
yeah.
assume.
And another reason why I say there's such a big misunderstanding of just what was going on, I think is Hunter Renfro. Like he kind
Yeah,
of fell off a
fell
cliff,
off the map. Yeah,
but slot receiver is one of the hardest positions to master within McDaniels. That's why we only saw it's Welker, it's Edelman. They've had a legit slot receiver in New England for as long as I can remember, at least since 2006 or 2007. And
right.
so because of that, I think that's where Renfro could go, "Oh my goodness, I am like
Let
my
me buy
head's
in.
swimming right now." So I do expect an improvement from him. And then obviously now, I mean, we'll tease kind of free agency a little bit. Now getting Jacoby Myers in that rotation
Yeah,
as well, I think will only help everyone out.
yeah, and Jimmy G is going to be interesting as well. Another spoiler for the offseason.
But
But
also another McDaniels
yeah,
connection,
scheme fit.
very much a scheme fit.
So,
Uh
but that was Vegas. I mean, going on to the next one, I was probably most impressed with Brian Dowell.
100%. This is how, like, you know how we felt about Sirianni last year? And it's
Yeah,
like, I'm so impressed with what he did. I feel this same exact way with Dayball.
yeah. I
And
mean, he took a you know a struggling Danny Dimes who was about to be phased out of the NFL, made him QB7. He took
yeah,
Saquon Barkley, who was struggling with injuries and just wasn't the same guy he was in his sophomore season, made him RB6. Now, the only thing that they didn't have going for them, and the reason why they ended up, in my opinion, finishing 9-7-1 instead of having a better record, was the wide receiver room.
literally, literally, that that roster was DOA. And like you can see how like Dave Gettleman,
Yeah.
Judge Judge kind of tore it down, and then Dayball over here is like, all right, this is what I gotta work with. Like he made Isaiah Hodgins fantasy relevant,
Yep.
within fantasy playoffs, mind you, which is crazy. But like
Yeah.
your best receiver is ranked 52nd. That's like compared to Sterling with Sterling
Yeah.
Shepard who got hurt, and then there's Darius Slayton, and then there's Richie James who ends up being wide receiver 52. And
did
that's not
Darius Slayton sign you?
back with the Giants, and they also signed Paris Campbell.
Didn't they lose someone? Didn't the Giants lose someone? Or was it just Slayton that was a free agent that got re-signed?
It was just Slayton. They cut Galladay.
That's
Um,
who I'm thinking of as Galladay.
yeah,
Galladay
they
got
cut.
signed somewhere else.
Yeah, but granted, it was Galladay. But otherwise, I am beyond impressed with how Dayball was able to turn the Giants into a playoff team.
Yeah.
And I mean, they heavily relied on the run. I don't think it will be the same way. But if you're going to franchise Barkley, you're going to sign Danny Dimes to 80 million guaranteed over 4 years. It's
Well,
very well. That deal is very much a 2-year contract.
so here's the thing with Saquon. I think they're not going to be as run heavy, but I think the part of his game that's going to develop more next year is his passing threat that he
One
kind of showed
hundred
towards the
percent, and that's how I feel going into it. That's where I'm still confident in Saquon heading into next year.
yeah. I mean, I see him going from like RB6 to RB4 for next year,
I can very well see that. I'm just gonna go through
maybe
Saquon's
higher.
stats real quick.
I don't know.
He had wow, that's it. Nope, hold on. He had 76 targets. I can totally see
That's
them
not bad.
like looking at Barkley and going, "Hey, you're a legit dude. We want to pay you, but we want you to be around for a while. So we're going to take away some of your carries. We're going to bring in another person for that, and we're going to use you within
From the
passing
passing.
situations."
Yep.
And especially when you have Danny Dimes who can also run. And so
And he
now
needs to dump the football down more instead of trying Danny
exactly, but I
Dimes. We love
totally
Danny
I
Dimes.
totally think that Saquon is actually going to go more down the Eckler route as far as it's going to be
No,
way more balanced
that's
running
exactly what I
and
was going to say.
receiving.
That's exactly what I was going to say. Is what did they start doing with Eckler? They had 1 year of just pound, 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 and then realized, oh wait, we can't do that, but he can catch the football. So let's let him run the ball when we're in specific situations or when we get a good look. And then when we don't get a good look, we can either put somebody else in there to run block, or we can just give them a couple of the harder carries to save Eckler. And then we'll also use Eckler for these really short, easy checkdowns where he's not going to get a lot of contact. He's just going to catch it and either go out of bounds or catch it, make a move, get upfield, and avoid a big hit.
Yep, and I also think with the talent that they've added so far in free agency, again, another tease, it's just going to extend drives, and that's where it it's only gonna do good things for Saquon. It's only gonna do good things for Danny Dimes too, to where we could talk about Danny Dimes being staying in the top 10, and that will be insane. That will be a
Yeah.
comeback story for the ages.
Yeah. I think there's a very real chance that he could stay within the QB10 realm.
Yeah, speaking of comeback stories, let's talk about QB9 and Trevor Lawrence and what we thought was dead in the water because of one Urban Meyer. Doug Peterson steps in, leads the
Saves
Jacksonville
the game.
Jaguars to the divisional round. They went 9-8, had this year QB9, running back 18, wide receiver 12, which I want to get onto wide receiver 12, and then tight end 5 on the year. I mean, obviously, we'll talk
This team's
about
only getting
Lawrence.
better.
They're only going to
This
get
team's only
better.
getting better.
The fact that they had a wide receiver 1 tier, um, is insane. Like, literally insane. Christian Kirk, everyone mocked the signing in the beginning of free agency, and that turned out to be the
Well,
biggest
ha,
free agent signing.
ha, freaking ha.
Yeah.
How about that, all of you freaking haters? Maybe you just give it a minute and let these people who actually know what they're doing go to work. I don't know, because I know us personally, we were more concerned about the money than Christian Kirk as a player. Like we talked about, he's a great player. We think he can be a good fit in Jacksonville, but did they overpay? And that was our big question. Not hating on them, but it's super valid to say, are they overpaying this guy? Yes or no? I think he proved everyone wrong that he deserved the money he got.
Yep. I totally believe that that he not only deserved the money he got, but now you're going, "Ooh, I got more," and then now you look at Calvin Ridley coming in, probably filling in for Zay Jones, and so now it's
Yep.
Ridley, Christian Kirk,
Yep.
Ingram's coming back, along with another year of Lawrence and ETN. I think this offense, they're gonna be way better next year.
They're gonna have a top five RB next year.
Yeah, I don't know top 5 because I think running back
Top
is
five.
again stacked this
Top
year.
five running back.
I mean, I'm not gonna say it's impossible. I definitely think it's very possible. It's
You
just
heard it
there's
here
so
first.
many. Yeah, add that to the take list.
Oh yeah. Is that on your phone? Yeah. Is it just a little note stock
Yeah,
on
I
your
kinda
phone?
have it on the notes pad at the moment right now, so take list, we will review this at the end of the year. Uh, so Ethan, Travis Etienne, top 5 running back.
Yep. A
I
million
don't hate
dollars.
it. I can see it. I mean, the receiving, but the home run ability, especially when you're gonna have Calvin Ridley too,
I mean, dude, it just
absolutely.
for me, it was what he showed at the end of the season. I mean, when he was averaging like 5 yards per carry and catching like four plus passes, I would say a game. That is
It
when I
was
was really like, oh man, he's gonna be incredible.
Yeah, and I definitely think that ETN's gonna go as far as the development of Trevor Lawrence, because I think a
I'd say
lot of
pretty
t
far.
yeah, it's gonna be pretty far, and, man, I cannot wait to see what Doug Peterson does. There were so many different, like, schematic tiny adjustments where I was like, "Ooh, Doug Peterson's in his bag," and, like, the best one is the power sweep to set up the game-winning field goal in the wild card game. I just went, "That is so genius." It
Yeah,
was the power sweep to basically go, "It's ETN versus Asante Samuel Jr." And I was like, "Well done
I'm
to you."
taking
That's
ETN. Yeah, and I'm
yeah,
taking ETN 10 out of 10 times.
10 out of 10, actually 12 out of 10 to be quite honest with
Yeah,
you.
exactly.
Um, so let's go over to the next team, and I think
AOC. K-O.
Oh, C. Yeah, so let's talk about the person who really did go 12 out of 10 his first year with all the one-score games.
Yeah,
But
let's not talk about the, playoff,
let's not talk about the playoff game, but
game.
Kevin O'Connell had Minnesota, and they went 13-4, wide receiver 1, running back 8, QB 8, and tight end 2 on the year. That
That is
offense
insane.
was humming. It was going. The only thing that I think is kind of fool's gold, but I do expect O'Connell to get better at this, is that at points I felt the offense did clunk and like kind of
Yeah.
halt,
Well, but it was a
especially.
script game. It was a script
Yeah,
game because it's always in the first half. That's how you
yeah,
know you need to adjust your script and your situational play calling. Because when you score the most points in the NFL in the fourth quarter, that tells me one thing. You've got a really talented offense, you've got good backup plays, and you know how to adjust to what they're doing. But why are you starting so slow?
exactly. And I think it's just the initial adjustment. Like the script is really
Yeah.
good, and then it's now what do teams do on top of that, and that's where I kind of felt they got into a bind a little bit. But those are like growing pains of a first year head
Of being a
coach.
new head coach.
And
Right.
a new play caller, 'cause let's be honest, he didn't call plays when
No,
he was
there's no.
underneath McVay. So I was like, "You know what? Growing pains, but you still did really good." I don't know if they'll hit those numbers again because I don't expect the Vikings defense to be as bad as they were last year, but best believe they will be up in this range again.
Yeah, I mean, I think Hawkinson and JJ are pretty foolproof, but I think the
It,
running back room could be interesting. Kirk
yeah,
Chains could be interesting. I don't know. I could see him kind of staying at about this level.
I could see him going down a couple spots, like both going to RB12, QB12. Like that's how I can see it.
Mm.
If there's anything, Dalvin Cook will definitely be the one that might fall off a
He'll take the
cliff.
biggest hit. Yeah,
Yeah,
I
without a
wouldn't
doubt.
want to have him right now personally.
Yeah, and speaking of cliffs, let's go to Chicago because unfortunately their
Dude,
season kind of fell off a cliff.
I mean,
But
Chicago Justin Fields were very good.
yeah,
No, the Chicago Justin Fields was incredible.
The
It was
Chicago
everything
Buckeyes.
else. Yeah,
Yeah, unfortunately the team was just in shambles. But man, I do appreciate, and I'll go back to Sirianni here. They switched up their scheme mid-year. It's gutsy. And guess what?
yeah.
It completely worked. It kept your team in there, and now you're building a culture of we are going to win as many games as we can, and
Well, and it
or
got him a
going for the
future.
win.
So it also got them a future because they got the first overall pick, which they traded away to get a bevy of other picks, which is just,
And
I
and
mean, I don't think they could be in a better situation. You have Justin Fields, you have a lot of picks for the future. You're still in the top 10 for this year's draft.
and you picked up wide receiver 20 on the year.
Yeah. I mean, that whole room is just they're going to be fun to watch next
Yeah.
year. And I mean, like at number 9, they're in perfect position to get an offensive lineman. It would be nice if they replace some of the defensive guys that they lost, but there's still some options in free
Yeah.
agency, so hopefully they make a move there.
I will tell you because they do have a bevy of mid-round picks, if I remember right. I think they have a couple
Yeah,
more than usual. The
yeah,
mid-round defensive players, like your
are solid.
edges,
Yeah,
your D line, ooh, they're gonna be really nice. For them, I would love for them to get like a Moro Ajomo out of Texas,
yeah,
as far as D line, and that's like a mid round pick. And then but also like a Day and Henley could be very. Oh no, actually, now thinking about it, they signed TJ Edwards and Tremaine Edmonds, so they don't even need linebacker at this point.
yeah. Linebacker, they're good on. It's mostly just D line, O line. Um, but I mean, they can take care of that at number 9, and they can take care of that in the second round. So, and there's still a couple of good D linemen, like Calais Campbell is still available. There's a few
Who
guys that are out
I mean,
there.
speaking at the very beginning of the episode, I think Falcons hosted him a visit as well.
Yeah, they're
Uh,
hosting them on Friday.
Nice. And let's think. There's quite a few places also,
Hakeem
but
Hicks is also up there. I think is Vita Vea available too?
no, he's under contract.
Okay.
But no matter what, with Chicago, take last year. The only thing you need to take from last year is Justin Fields, and
Mhm.
then be a
Throw
very
everything else in the trash.
I'm very excited to see what happens with them this year.
100%.
Yep. So our last head coach we want to talk about, and this is going to be my favorite of the bunch. I think he did the
Oh,
second best job
this is
just
the
because
biggest disappointment.
I mean it's so we're going to talk about Mike McDaniel for Miami. And I think
The
our
biggest what if.
my biggest disappointment is the health of the team.
Yeah, I mean, they lost everyone. I mean, you lost Jalen Waddle, you lost
Yep.
Tyreek for a bit. Tua died twice. I
Yeah,
mean, like,
and
it
literally if Tua played the wild card game,
they win,
they
100%.
win. They beat Buffalo
They had Skyler. They started Skyler, who got injured.
and he almost won the game. And like
Yeah,
that to me, that gives credit. Mike McDaniel's a magician. I mean, I think Andrew Hawkins
incredible.
said the best. He goes, "I don't think I've ever seen anyone explain football as good as he did."
Yeah.
And
Well, not only that, he's a phenomenal leader. Like,
yes,
every every single not beside behind the scenes look we got at Mike McDaniel's. It's just about him connecting with his players and him like going the extra mile, like you said, like explaining things and running through why people are doing what they're doing and just being there for them, not just as a coach, but as a man and as a leader. That's why the Dolphins were so good. That's why the Dolphins are continue or will continue this next year to be so good. And I just can't give him enough
and
flowers.
they're bringing everyone back. So as long as they kind of bolster their O line,
Except
sign
for
me up.
except for Byron Jones. But
Yeah,
they replaced that with Jalen Ramsey. Ha ha ha! Spoilers. That one's actually really crazy, but let's not
yeah.
talk about it too much.
That one's also yeah, that's absurd. So yeah, those I mean, I think we kind of gave a really good review of the head coaches from last year. Now, who are you most excited for going into year 2? Just
Oh,
rapid
that's
fire.
tough. Um, I mean, I'm excited for all of them for different reasons. Like, I'm excited to see Josh McDaniels with these new scheme fit players for him in Las Vegas. I'm excited to see Dable continue to improve Saquon and hopefully develop a wide receiver room. I'm excited for Doug Peterson to see how he develops Trevor Lawrence and ETN as a package. I'm excited for KOC to revamp his script and just have a more consistent offense. I'm excited for Eberflus to finally save Chicago, and I'm excited for Mike McDaniel's to see if he can actually make a run at the playoffs. Like I can't just pick one
I
and be like I'm most excited for this
I
guy.
I tried to force you into one, and yeah, I can't get mad at you for not picking one because I think there are so many good things about each coach going into the year into this
100%,
season that I am just super excited to see.
100%.
And but man, it's going to be fun. It's going to be fun to see what the second year iteration is going to be of these coaches.
Yeah.
Um,
Let's go
and
to the new.
yeah, let's go to the new. So, I would say this year when it came to the hiring carousel, it was an offensive coordinator war. And you saw, I think at one point it was like 13 or 12 or 13 teams have offensive coordinator openings. And then you're like, oh, this is crazy. And that's
Yeah.
including all the head coach openings. The first one I want to talk about is because hilariously enough, I forgot to add him, but we have a person that we kind of want to talk about. One of the offense coordinator openings, at least. Let's see if he's here. Let's see.
I'm starting at the top.
Yeah, I don't know if he's here. Alex, can you hear us? Maybe, maybe not.
Oh, he's
There he
coming.
is. Hey,
Alex.
Alex, it's been a
Surprise
while.
guest, everyone. Boom, boom. Stay on your toes.
Hello.
What's up, man? How you been?
I'm doing pretty good. How are you?
Doing pretty good. We're just making it through at this point, but
Not you.
we're doing pretty good.
But
Just
yeah,
talking
we're
about
just
coaches
doing it,
at the
man.
moment. Yeah, we're just doing the thing.
We're
Sweet.
talking about all the new coaches right
Mm-hmm.
now.
Which and actually, we kind of want to start off with your new coach being Brian Schottenheimer replacing Kellen Moore. So first off, I do want to ask you, how did you feel when you heard the news that Kellen Moore was leaving?
I'm gonna be completely honest with you. I was actually very happy.
Really? Why is that? Why is that? Might have lost them.
Uh, I mean, just some of the play calls, like that last play, uh, each playoff game where he had Zeke at center. I don't know, it just didn't make
Yeah,
sense to me.
something messed up there. 100. I've totally forgot about it. It was something. Someone definitely messed up there.
But after that play, I was like, whoever's in charge of the offense needs to be fired.
And Kellen Moore
You
was
know what? Fair enough.
fair
But
enough. Fair enough.
plus, I feel like with Dak Prescott, when he came into the league, Kellen Moore was a backup. He was actually ahead of Dak when Dak was a rookie until he broke. I think Kellen Moore broke his leg or ankle or something. And so when Dak came into that room with Kellen Moore, they were kind of more buddies and didn't really have that coach player relationship. So it'll be
Mm.
interesting. I think it'll be good
Hmm.
for Dak to kind of have more of a like, hey, this is my coach, kind of more relationship with Coach McCarthy calling plays and obviously the new offensive coordinator.
Yeah. So that's very interesting because I haven't really thought about it, and especially if they're. I mean, it's. I mean, Brian Schottenheimer is the new offensive coordinator, which you've probably heard of his dad, Marty Schottenheimer. But the last big OC job Brian Schottenheimer had was, I think, Russell Wilson's last legit year in Seattle, and even then he got fired, like canned, like midway through. Does
Right.
that give you any like positive outlook on this team
It
at all?
shouldn't. It's a trap question. It shouldn't. He
I, I,
sucks.
t- I
Just
well,
like the Cowboys.
I have a different view on it, but I do want to hear Alex your perspective first.
I mean, it's always nice to kind of change things up. And I mean, he did get fired, but was it all because of him or is it because Russell Wilson kind of got him fired? It's kind of like really
I
thrown in.
I definitely think it's a mixture of the two plus a nice pinch of Pete Carroll philosophy.
Right.
Yeah.
If I am reading the breadcrumbs correctly, that's what I think it was. Because I know that they weren't happy with him throwing the ball so much, which is why I thought the hire to Dallas is even weirder when you have Mike McCarthy going, we need to run the ball and play defense. So
Right.
I do wonder what the mesh is going to be interesting. And
Well,
considering that,
speaking of that's probably the best transition into it. I won't let you finish that, but
yeah.
I do want to talk about the fantasy relevance of it after you finish that thought.
So the only reason I say the mesh is going to be interesting because I mean how Kellen Moore and both Dak now thinking about it, how they started was under a Mike Martz system, which is how and based on the coaching tree, which and especially Mike Martz and Dan Mullen knew each other, which Dan Mullen was the Mississippi State head coach at the time when Dak was there. So this is clear. This is going to be the first time Dak goes into completely different terminology and completely different like philosophies. So I do wonder if that's going to mean at least for the Dallas offense, they struggle a little bit, also including the fact that they don't have a single healthy running back on the team at the moment.
So with that, I think it's a perfect time to talk about scheme and kind of just fantasy scheme of
Yeah.
how this is going to look. And what he's inheriting is Dak Prescott, who's coming off a pretty off year. I think we'd all agree. Better than when he returned from his ankle injury, but still just kind of something missing. And I think more of what they're going to be doing this year is going away from that, let's run the ball and play defense, and opening it up a little bit deeper to trust Dak. Because if you think back to 2016, when Dak was successful, he was airing it out. And
Well,
then what was setting up his passing game was Zeke being an absolute monster.
Zeke was a
But they had the
handler.
balance.
Yeah, and I mean, we'll have to let the resident Cowboys expert let us in on this. But personally, for me, it was always all right. you're going to let Zeke and the offensive line be a hammer, which at one point I still want to say Dallas had one of the greatest offensive lines ever assembled in history. And it's a
No, they
shame
did. It
that
was.
they didn't do anything with it. But then eventually you got to a point where Dak could start holding games on his own. Do you think that's still true, or do you think it's going to be a marriage of both the run and pass game for Dallas this year?
I think it can be true, but it's going to be a little bit more even than, hey, let's run the football and have Pollard and Zeke just 1-2 punch it. Because now they just have Pollard who's not even healthy. So it's got to be Dak up front, but he has the weapons to do it. I mean, you have CeeDee Lamb, you have Michael Gallup who's getting back to being healthy, and then you have, forgive me,
Well,
who
actually,
they just signed.
no, it's not who they just signed. I was about to say, I think they're kicking Michael Gallup to the curb and backpedaling so bad from the letting Amari Cooper go for a half a bag of Cheetos.
Yeah,
So
kind of
they
unfortunate.
traded for Brandon Cooks, which I still think is very interesting because that is a speed
That's
aspect
it.
that
Yep.
CeeDee Lamb, as good as he is, just doesn't have. And I think
Yeah.
they expected more out of Jalen Tolbert.
Yeah.
And since that didn't
Just
work,
hasn't put it
neither
together
did
yet.
Gallup. They have to go to
But
um
Gallup did look dominant at times. I think he just wasn't all the way healthy yet. But I do want your take on that, Alex.
yeah, Alex, what do you think here?
Yeah, I mean, whenever Michael Gallup was really like had his best seasons, he was never like the number two option. Like I think before he got injured, in that Cardinals game a couple of years ago, he was the number three behind I think CD and Amari Cooper, and he
Yep.
excels at that because when we tried to elevate Gallup into a bigger role, he uh he was kind of inconsistent. Like he still had a couple like breakout games. Then there was like a lot of games where I'm like, is he even playing? Is he still injured? I mean,
So you
kind
mean
of
to
hard to
tell me
judge.
that Dallas paid $75 million
What
to a
did
wide
I
receiver
in
three?
fantasy?
Do what?
Yes.
Yeah, Ethan, say ask your question.
Yeah, what's your question?
No, go ahead. Go ahead. Say yours again because I want him to hear
Oh,
it. But the answer is yes.
I said, so you mean to tell me Dallas spent $75 million on a wide receiver three?
Pretty much. I think they realized that. Uh,
No.
when they signed Michael Gallup to that contract, I was like,
Oh
when I
boy.
originally saw it,
So this is what we're doing. Drugs.
I mean,
pretty much.
the fact that they've been in the hunt for a receiver, I think is super telling. And
Yeah.
especially and now thinking of like how Schottenheimer used DK and Lockett, it was a lot of deeper crossing routes and a lot of like play action setups. So I do wonder. I mean, they kind of just needed a speed aspect, but how excited are you about CD Lamb this year? To me, it feels like we finally saw the evolution into the wide receiver one status that he is. But do you think this is going to be better or worse for him, especially since Dallas is essentially on the rumor mill side of things, been so adamant on adding more receivers?
I think it'll be good for him because whenever CeeDee Lamb was the second option behind Amari Cooper that one year, he got a lot of ton of like catches and yards and touchdowns. Like he had a really good year. He had a good year this year, but it kind
Yeah.
of took Dak and CeeDee Lamb a couple games to kind of be like, oh hey, you're and obviously Dak got injured week one, so Cooper Rush as well. But it took CeeDee Lamb a few games to realize, oh man, I'm the number one option. I'm the dude here. Everyone's going to be covering me. And I feel like with more receivers, like we got Cooks now and Michael Gallup coming back healthy, I think it'll help stretch the field more and kind of help CeeDee Lamb get more matchup like opportunities that we want.
Like a lot more of the intermediate
Yeah.
routes.
Yeah.
Yeah, I could totally see that.
And I think that's a good place to leave Dallas because the next one is going to be even faster.
Yeah,
But we're
it's
going
a
to go
good
to the
ending point.
Dolphins.
Yeah, so I'm actually just gonna go through all the OCs that we have coming up, and you guys are gonna tell me which one are you most excited about. So at Kansas City, Matt Nagy. Um, let's see. Next one
Which
is
really
Eric.
just means that Eric
And,
Reed is just calling the play, or
yeah,
Andy Reid.
Andy Reid's calling the play
Yeah.
exactly. Eric Bieniemy, Washington. Todd Monken, Baltimore. Dave Canales, Tampa Bay. Nathaniel Hackett, Jets. Kellen Moore, Chargers. Mike LaFleur, Rams. Brian Johnson, Philly. All right, which one are you most excited about?
I mean, it's got to be the enemy.
I was gonna say Bieniemy. I'm also extremely curious in Dave Canales though. I'm not choosing the Homer pick because I actually do love that OC pick, but I would say as far as my two most interesting ones, it's definitely Bieniemy and Dave Canales.
Well, I mean, if you look at Washington, they've never had someone that can just be dominant, can know what he's doing, can call the plays, and actually be an asset to Washington. Like Washington has been struggling offensively for years, just having one loser after the next, and Ron Rivera not giving a crap, and then obviously the management group not giving a crap. So now you're telling me you're getting someone who has the insight at how to run a 1-2 punch running back system because he's coming from using CEH, Jarek McKinnon, and Pacheco all at the same time. So I love Brian Robinson and Gibson together. I love Gibson more because he has more of a passing game element to him than Brian Robinson does. But you have someone that can use that. Okay, that's awesome. Now look at the wide receiver group. You have Jahan Dotson and you have Scary Terry with one of the best offensive minds in football, should be a head coach in the NFL. This is kind of his, I'm going to go to the worst offense in the NFL and make them into something. And if you don't think I can be a head coach, well, then you can go shove it up your rear end. And that's what I'm excited for with the enemy.
I think you're going to take that aggressive approach, and it's going to be glorious to watch. And especially,
I'm so excited.
I mean, I think it's Sam Howell. There's definitely some promise there. Yeah. And I think when you're too deep at running back, you're 4 deep at receiver,
you're going to find some get fun with a good offense coordinator that knows how to use them. It's going to be fun.
And another reason why I said and I'm going to switch over to Dave Canales real quick, but he was the quarterbacks coach from Seattle this past year. Mm-hmm. And the fact if there's anything that I was like, I'm so impressed with any of the Seattle quarterbacks we've seen in the last few years. So whether that's Geno Smith or Russ, deep ball accuracy has been off the charts good. And so now Baker's going to work on that. And then you have
Bud Baker. That's the only thing.
But now you have Chris Godwin and Mike Evans. So I don't think this offense is going to be as dead in the water as some people might think.
I wouldn't say dead in the water, but I'm definitely intrigued to watch it.
Yep. Alex, who do you think is going to be the coordinator to watch out of this list?
To me, I'm going to go with Nathaniel Hackett only because whenever he was coordinator in Green Bay, he had Aaron Rodgers that was a back-to-back MVP. And if they're able to swing him, I'm not saying Aaron Rodgers is going to miraculously be like the old MVP form that he used to have, but he knows Aaron Rodgers really well. And
if Aaron Rodgers gets traded,
if he gets traded,
but he also has a lot of good weapons around, and so maybe being a head coach, he wasn't ready for that because it was too much for him. Yeah, and so I'm curious to see if an offensive coordinator, if he'll be able to kind of new place, kind of get a new fresh start and be like, hey, this is what I do, and kind of see how if he can bounce back to being developing winning offenses.
And they're going to have a lot of weapons because as of right now, I mean, you have Garrett Wilson, Corey Davis, Alan Lazard, Mecole Hardman. That's your top 4, and then yes, literally we're recording this on the day that Elijah Moore gets traded to Cleveland, so keep in mind with that, everyone. And then
but that's you also have Breece Hall going to run the jet sweep, and that's it.
Don't tell Mecole Hardman apparently. But then you also have Breece Hall coming back, so hopefully that also boasts really well in Nathaniel Hackett's favor. Is they do need some O-line help.
Yeah.
But this is where things could get very interesting. I like that pick.
Are we ready for some head coaches?
Yeah, I mean, I'll just say a couple last minute notes. I mean, Monken I want to be excited about, but there's a quarterback who hasn't signed an extension yet, so I can't really say anything. Brian Johnson, I think, is the most interesting because it's
Yeah.
going from QB coach to offensive coordinator. I think the scheme stays the same for the most part, but
Yeah. Well,
that
it's
it's
Syria.
hard. It's hard to
It's
mess
Syria.
up that Philly
They're fine.
offense.
Yeah,
Yeah.
they're fine.
Let's talk about some head coaches. So here are all the new head coaches this year. Shane Steichen goes from Philly OC to the Indianapolis Colts with offensive coordinator Ethan.
Jim Bob Cooter.
Excellent. D'Amico Ryans goes from San Francisco to come home to Houston with
Mm-hmm.
offensive coordinator Bobby Slowick. Sean Payton tries to fix what happened in Denver, and he
Good
has
luck.
OC Joe Lombardi. Jonathan Gannon, the DC from Philly, goes to Arizona with offensive coordinator Drew Petzing. And Frank Wright, after getting booted from Indy, goes to Carolina with the number 1 pick and offensive coordinator Thomas Brown. So we're going to start with Shane Steichen here because I think is definitely part of the architect of how good that Eagles offense was.
Yeah.
The big question is, will they run it? Because when Nick Sirianni first started there, it was a completely different offense. It wasn't like their spread run system that they had out there. They were kind of more under center, more West Coast themes. So I really do wonder what they will do. A lot of
I'm
it,
going to tell you right now, he's going to run the football.
I think he will, and especially when you have a running back named
Jonathan
Jonathan
Taylor, the
Taylor.
best running back in the NFL. Yeah, he's going to run the football.
It's
I
just
think
that
he's going to take some of Philly with him, but I do think he also incorporates it with old Philly, some of like that spread, and depending on which QB they take in the NFL draft, which we can talk about for a little bit, most likely Anthony Richardson. And if that's the case, they can run a lot of QB option. They can do some of the RPO stuff of old Philly. So I think it can be a mix and match of the different years of Philly,
I think
which
a
would be
mix and match.
incredible.
I think you'll see the mix and match in the run game because I don't think they'll do a
Yeah,
lot of the zone running that they did in Philly.
yeah,
I think you're going to get a lot of power running.
yeah.
So whether it's going to be zone split with power or any I just said two concepts at once. Whether it's power or counter or one of those runs,
At the
because
same time,
that's what.
I was
Yeah,
gonna give you a pass, but
yeah. Thank you for that. My brain just went wee.
it's
But
okay. Your
but
brain
I
did counter. You stepped left and then tried to go right. It's okay.
yep. Thank you, Ethan.
Of course.
But with Jonathan Taylor, who is such a he's very much a downhill runner, even though he's a complete back, his strength is going downhill. So I do wonder how that changes. Um, how the running is going to be because Philly didn't really have a fullback last year. And so
Mhm.
I wonder if they'll use their bevy of gigantic tight ends like Mo Alley Cox or Jelani Woods and try to run it that way.
Yeah.
And I heard that there's some rumors floating around that the Colts are kind of thinking very highly of trying to see if they can get Lamar Jackson from away from Baltimore,
Would not be surprised.
which would fit running
It
quarterback style like Hurts.
it would definitely fit, and then you actually get to
Oh,
see what
that would
Lamar
be
Jackson's
insane.
40 would be.
That would
Yeah.
be insane to see Lamar Jackson
And Jonathan Taylor in the
and
same
Jonathan
backfield.
Taylor in a
Yeah.
Philly style offense. Oh my god.
Yeah, that would be insane. I would not be surprised because
I don't want to play them.
I think the
No.
stipulation in that rumor because I did hear the same thing, and I think it's if Stroud or Bryce Young go 1 and 2.
Right.
And I think why they're saying that is because a team will then jump them with Arizona, and then they'll take Anthony Richardson.
Yeah,
That
if
would
Anthony
be my
Yeah.
Richardson is
guess.
gone, they're not taking Levis.
At
Just
this
point blank.
at this point, if I'm Arizona, I'm keeping the pick unless I get a
Yeah.
beautiful deal out of it.
Here's the thing about Arizona. Why are you going to give up the best defensive player we've seen since probably Miles Garrett?
I
For
I,
what?
I mean, as far as the positions they play, I was going to say since Von Miller.
That too. I
Yeah.
mean, like Will Anderson Jr. is that good. They have
Yes.
no business leaving the third pick. No one needs to be, or the Colts don't need to be worried about someone swapping them, because if they drop any lower than 4, Will Anderson Jr. is gone, because I guarantee you he goes at 5.
Yeah, 100%. And who has the 5th pick this year?
I think is
I
it the
think it's
Ravens?
Seattle.
No, it's
Yes,
not
it is
the
Seattle. It is Seattle. In that case, I would think Seattle goes like Jalen Carter, but they could very much go um Will Anderson and call it a day.
I
But
mean, yeah, if Will Anderson's there, they're going to take him. They're going to take the best
so
player available.
so yeah,
Mhm.
but that does put Indy in the spot though. And so that's where I do think you'll get a lot more of the Philly style, but I
Mhm.
do think the run game might be significantly different. I do wonder what Indy does at receiver though, because you're banking on Pittman, you're banking on Pierce.
But Pittman's proved it.
Yeah, Pittman's yeah. I think my issue is that Pittman and Pierce are very similar, and you need someone else to be that explosive, like home run threat, kind of
Well,
like what Paris
here's how I
Campbell
see
was
it.
last year.
I see Pittman and Pierce like Keenan Allen and Mike Williams. Alec Pierce being that Mike Williams, I'm going to make big man plays down the sideline. And then Pittman being in that Keenan Allen, I'm going to run phenomenal routes, try and see if you can stick with me.
And I love it that you made that comparison because that's kind of the trend. I think pre Indy and pre Philly, I'm pretty sure Steichen was with the Chargers. So
Yeah,
that
I think he was.
comparison, yeah, that comparison makes even more sense.
Hey, I'm excited to watch Colts football next year.
Yeah, Colts football is going to be a lot of fun.
Jim Bob.
Um, and what should be more fun than the last couple of years of pain? Let's go to Houston real quick.
I love
D'Amico,
D'Amico Ryans.
I love the
Great
fact that it's a
hire.
great culture hire, but also get a defensive coach in there. You'll always get a yes from me. Offensive coordinator was the former pass game coordinator of the 49ers and Bobby Slowick. My only note I have for this is how good is Bobby Slowick?
Yeah, just prove it to us. And
Yeah,
I mean, they're starting to build a team. They're probably going to take Bryce Young at 2. It'll be Bryce Young or CJ Stroud. And I think they're leaning more towards Bryce Young, which is, fine.
and I think if you're
I'm worried
going,
about receiver.
yep, receiver's going to be a big problem. But if I mean, you just traded Cooks, you have Mechie, you have a couple other pieces, but if if you're taking Bryce Young, you load up on trying to run the ball to help Bryce Young out.
Mhm.
And that's where I think the zone running scheme, the Shanahan scheme, regarding Damian Pierce. Damian Pierce is I'm keeping my eye on him. Now he
Yeah.
does have some competition. He's not going to be the workhorse back, but I hope that means that he's not out for 6 games, and especially when you need him the
Right.
most.
Shanahanigans are afoot.
Yeah, Alex, any notes on Houston?
No, I actually like the hire too because when I saw the hire D'Amico Ryans, I was like, this is a coach that I feel like will change like everything. Like, this doesn't seem like a one and done band-aid like Levy Smith, and completely forgot who the other guy
David
was
Coley.
before him. Yeah, David Coley. Then when that I found out that they both were going to Houston for a year, I was kind of like, I wonder how that's going to fit. But D'Amico Ryans, I know that it'll fit because he's under the Kyle Shanahan tree.
Yep.
And so I already know that like he has the culture, he kind of knows the defense. The 49ers were always a top defense whenever he was the coordinator. And so he needs to fix the defensive side of the ball and to y'all's point, just see what the offense does with their new coordinator.
Yep. Yeah, I definitely wonder what's going to happen at the receiver position. I think that's
Yeah.
definitely the biggest
Speaking
question
of what's
mark.
going to happen, what's going to happen with Sean Payton and the Denver Russell Wilsons?
My only question is, can he fix Russell Wilson? And it's
Yeah.
very interesting to see what's
It sounds
happening.
like he is.
It sounds
His
like
private
Denver's
office is
also
gone.
shopping their top 2 receivers.
Oh, God, Denver.
So I do think Denver. I do think with Sean Payton, I don't think you'll see a turnaround change this year. I do think next year you'll see it
So
because
here's my thing with them really quickly. I don't think Judy's going anywhere for anything less than a first. And I don't know anyone that's going to pay a first for Judy.
no one's going to
So
pay a first for Judy.
I think that's okay for Sean Payton, Russell Wilson, and Judy, and then kind of build on that.
It's Cortland
I'm really
Sutton that I have questions about.
Yeah, I agree with that. I am glad that Sean Payton took away Russell Wilson's private office, his private coaches,
Yeah.
pretty much all of his antics that he was pulling,
And
and
Peyton's from
he
the
just depends on the culture.
Peyton's part of the Parcells coaching tree, if I'm not mistaken. So it's a no nonsense. Like,
Yeah,
he has
which is
Parcells,
what
you
he
get
needs.
Belichick, and you get all that.
Because you had Hackett come in and be like, I don't know how this works, so do your thing, Russell. And it killed the team.
But I think what made it worse also was that Denver gave Russell the contract to where it's like, you're here whether we like it or not. And
Yeah.
then we were talking, we did a podcast episode watching the Colts Denver game, which that
Oh, that was
probably
the
was a
worst game I've
mistake
ever
in of
witnessed.
itself because we were
Yeah.
clawing our eyes out. But that's where we kind of went, oh no, there's something wrong. There's something wrong here. So, but
Oh
there's
no, Russell Wilson and Matt Ryan suck.
yeah.
That's pretty much
Oh,
the
oh,
commentary.
Thursday night. Oh no.
Oh
Um,
no, how are they both being worse than each other at the same time?
oh, protect Michael Pittman at all costs. That's kind of how we felt. But if there's any quote I've taken from Sean Payton, I think is super important to his coaching philosophy. He talks about the importance of the run game and not
Yep.
having all of the weight on your quarterback's shoulders. And now,
Yeah.
granted, he had Drew Brees for a long time, and he could literally do that. But what happens when Drew Brees had noodle arm? They were like, all right, cool, we're gonna run the ball, we're gonna run the ball, we're gonna run the ball.
Alvin Kamara, baby.
Exactly. And so now you get Samaje P. Ryan, who is probably gonna start a few games in the beginning as Javonte Williams heals.
Yeah, since Melvin Gordon had to go win a Super Bowl with the Chiefs.
I got carried, baby. But I with Sean Payton, I'm actually not excited for Russ. I am so excited for Javante.
Yeah, no, it's gonna be. I think it's
And
gonna be a fun fit
but
overall.
more importantly, again, another free agent tease, they fixed the O line real quick.
Yeah,
Yeah. Alex, any notes on Sean Payton?
I think the defense in Denver is very happy as well because there was, I think, one point in the middle of the season where they had the number one ranked defense, but they had the 32nd ranked offense.
Oh
And like
my.
you can't win with that. You gotta at least score some points.
Oh, that feels
So
like
let's
if
ride.
they keep like most of their pieces, and it looks like they have some young guys on the defensive side, and they've gotten some free agents on the offensive side too. So I am curious to see how they'll be able to roll. I'm excited to see their offense.
yeah.
Yeah,
So
let's ride.
who do you think is going to be their highest ranked player in fantasy this year?
Jerry Judy.
I sure
Ooh,
hope so.
I would go with that. I would go with Jerry Judy as well. So let's move over to Arizona because this is actually the hire I have the most questions on. I
It's
mean,
a big fat blue.
Jonathan Gannon was all right. As the Eagles defensive coordinator, now he goes to Arizona. I have two notes. So their offensive coordinator is Drew Petzing. I've never heard of this dude before.
Yeah,
However, the longest time he has stayed in one place, I looking up good old Wikipedia, was Minnesota in the mid 2010s. And it was like 2016 to 2019. So that means he was with the Mike Zimmer era Vikings. So and if it's Mike Zimmer
red flag.
era, yeah, you're looking at a lot of the zone running attack. So
Well,
that's
I mean, the
where
Adrian Peterson part was good.
oh yeah, but that wasn't during that time. It was during like
Was
Dalvin
he
Cook
not there in
early
2010?
years.
I thought he was there in 2010.
No, Drew Petzing? No. Drew Petzing started in 2014 and then in 2019 was the receivers coach. So from 2014 to 2019. So it looks like he specializes in receivers and quarterbacks.
Okay.
So I do wonder
I
if that
know Adrian Peterson was suspended in 2014 with his child abuse case.
oh no. Oh
That's
no.
right.
Right when
Oh,
Petzik came in. That's funny.
oh jeez. Oh great. That's an
Of course he
interesting
was.
that's a very interesting history lesson.
So fun fact for you all out there.
I mean, just to take on the small information we have, it looks like Petzing's going to throw the ball.
Yeah.
Now the question is, Kyler, how's this going to work? My
I
big
think
My big
I think
question
they
to
need
you
to do film review
guys,
together at his house, and that needs to be the relationship.
yeah,
Headsick
my,
and Kyler, just kick him off the Xbox, let him do film review for a little bit, and for every like successful play he can pick out, and whenever he gets a positive in film review, he can play a game. That needs to
oh,
be their relationship.
oh man, and he's gonna tell Activision to stop giving out double XP promotion
Oh my
announcements.
gosh, dude, there is
Uh,
a direct
I would
correlation to every game they lost and every double XP weekend. That is a statistic.
oh, have y'all remember the James Harden correlate Reddit correlation someone made?
Uh-uh.
Look it up. That's all I gotta say. Um, but all
Sorry, Alex, you're gonna say something.
yeah.
Oh yeah, I was gonna say I would not be surprised if Gannon ends up being the new Nathaniel Hackett
Oh,
because
Oh,
Kyler Murray, I feel like because he's still like there. I think his teammate, I think it was like Kelvin Beachum or
oh yeah,
however
yeah,
you
yeah. The O
pronounce
line,
it.
all this stuff.
Yeah, he was saying Kyler Murray needs to grow up a little bit more. And to me, I think putting Kyler with the first year coach, like head
that's
coach, is a
yeah.
little concerning because he might
Mm.
give Kyler kind of like, hey, you kind of do your thing a little bit, kind of like what Hackett did with Russell Wilson. So I'm kind of curious. I felt like I really wanted Bieniemy, honestly, to go over to Arizona because I feel like he would excel over there better. Even
Yeah,
though I know he was the
he's
first to be
also
first year as well.
he's definitely more of a no nonsense person too.
Yeah.
He would have been perfect for the Arizona head coach, but
Yeah,
I guess they blew that one.
so
And
my
another
big
thing
oh yeah,
too,
go for it.
another
What?
thing too is that y'all were saying earlier that the offensive coordinator like wants to throw the football, but like it seems like very very highly that DeAndre Hopkins is going to be traded any day. And
Well,
so
it's cap issues. I think
yeah,
that's why we've looked at it, and they need picks. So not if you're not going to have a lot of cap, you're going to need picks.
right.
Which my big question for you guys is this team ready to transition? Because I don't think so,
I
and
No,
don't think
that's
it's
so
gonna
my
either.
crash.
big
It's
issue.
gonna burn a little bit.
And I'm saying in fantasy, I think it will reflect that. Like I don't think James
Yeah.
Conner does as well. I don't think Kyler's going to do as well. I don't even think Rondale Moore or Hollywood is going to do as well.
Nope.
This is going
Sell,
to be the year of growing
sell,
pains.
sell, 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 sell.
I would buy low on Kyler though, like 100% buy low on Kyler.
It's 2008. The banks are closing. Get your money out.
Oh no! Oh, you just instilled so much pain. Oh man!
Yep.
But I mean, that's what it does feel like that. To be honest with
Mhm.
you,
That's what it is. The last one, maybe the best one.
definitely the best one. And I mean, honestly, he's one of my favorite coaches out like outside. But Frank Wright gets booted from the clown show that ended up being Indianapolis, and then heads to Carolina. Now, his offensive coordinator is a dude by the name of Thomas Brown. He's a former player, turned coach. I've noticed in his kind of like coaching history, running backs and tight ends, and I think that pairs really well when Reich is quarterbacks and mainly receivers. So from passing game to running game, I think that's going to be a pretty good mesh, especially
Yeah.
now that you have like Miles Sanders on the team. You're going
Yeah.
Lavishka, Terrace Marshall, who knows who else they add to that position since DJ Moore's out.
They have
And,
Adam Thielen as well.
oh, Thielen, thank you. I
Uh,
totally forgot about
that's
Thielen.
probably their wide receiver one.
Yep. And now, most likely, CJ Stroud.
That's what it's looking like.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So I'm
Who is the
pretty
best
excited.
QB in the
Yes,
draft? 100%.
he's QB1. I was flirting with Anthony Richardson, and then I had to go back and goes, no, I had to watch the Georgia game again. I was like, no, CJ Stroud's the best quarterback this year.
The passes he made were just. I mean, CJ Stroud didn't lose that game. I mean, it just Georgia had the
Pulled it
ball
through.
out.
That's where you can't really say, oh, this aspect of the game they blew it here. It was good on good the entire time.
Yeah, and they almost upset him. It was
Yeah,
just
Mhm.
Georgia. It really was. Georgia had the ball last. That's why they won.
yeah,
That was
yeah.
Because
basically
Stetson
the
Bennett
real
drove down the
national
field one.
championship.
So let's run with our projections of Frank Reich with CJ Stroud as QB1. How do y'all imagine how is this team going to go? Where do you think in fantasy this gets interesting? Because for me, this is where I think Miles Sanders gets a very,
Yeah.
very enticing.
Yeah, I think he's a hot commodity. I think Frank Reich is going to do something similar to Indy and really run that ball, give CJ Stroud plenty of time to, gain a foothold. Terrence Marshall isn't a bad receiver.
No,
So
now he gets the opportunity, and
I think he looks good.
yeah,
And Thielen too,
he
to be
was
a
wide receiver 3 behind Chase and Jefferson on the 2019 team. And then you saw for the first few games of 2020, he held his own.
Yep. I'm excited for the offense, actually.
Yeah.
Like it doesn't seem like much,
It
but
doesn't
it's very exciting.
it to me also adding Thielen for that veteran presence, especially within the receiver room, I think bodes really well as far as development for not only Stroud but also for Terrace Marshall and for everyone else. And I definitely don't think this is the final group. I definitely think they add a couple more pieces.
I think they're going to get some interesting wide receivers. Don't they have a late first round as well?
Uh, I can double check that.
Double check me just in case, but I know for sure on day 2 there's some interesting wide receiver options. But if they do have a late first, there's a good potential that they can get another dude to go with CJ Stroud. I mean, it would be ideal if they could get Njigba, but I really doubt that happens. But I mean, if they could get CJ Stroud and Njigba on the same team,
That would be
oh,
disgusting. However,
oh my god,
Jigba just ran a 4.53 at the Ohio State Pro Day. So
I
you
don't give
are
a
a
crap
Baltimore
about
Raven.
40 speed.
I
40
just think
speed
it
means nothing.
solidifies. I think no. I'm just saying that was the one thing people had against Njigba was his 40, and he just put up a really good 40. So I'm just like, you know what, you're a first round pick.
All right, and to
As of
that
right,
point, he would dunk on you if a pass was thrown up and you were in coverage with him. So what's the point?
yeah, he's so good.
He's just
He
that
he is
good.
good.
Okay, on this
And
question,
keep in mind, I'm from the Rockwall area, and the Jigba actually, I got to see him play a little bit in high school at my arch rival school,
he's
Rockwall High School.
he's that dude, isn't he?
So he would always moss everybody like at Heath, and it was just ridiculous.
Yeah. So
He's
on
that
this,
guy.
okay, rapid fire. I know we usually do our rankings afterwards, but before the draft, where do you rank in Jigba, real quick?
Wide receiver 1.
I'd
Alex,
agree
you?
with that.
I'm
Wide
wide
receiver
receiver
1.
2.
Who's
Oh,
ahead
who
of
do you
him?
have over him?
Zay Flowers.
Ooh, that's an
I
interesting.
I love
I
Zay
don't hate it.
Flowers. I
I
love
don't
Zay
hate it.
Flowers.
That's an interesting pick.
He's a good. Yeah, that's a good receiver too. I forgot about him, to be honest.
So I'll tell you, Carolina's picks right now: 139, 93, 114, 132, and 145.
I'm
I would,
packaging that 39, and I'm trying to go get Njigba.
if you
If I
can.
were
I
the
think
G,
I think if Njigba somehow goes past Baltimore, you start making calls.
yeah. Now,
I'd agree.
obviously, none of us are GMs, and that probably won't happen. And this is all just
And that's why we're
fan
not
theory.
GMs. I will tell
But yeah, that's exactly why we're not GMs. Is because we say some dumb stuff like that. But it would be awesome. All
I
right,
will
that's all I'm saying.
I will tell you, if they choose not to, there is another receiver there I would take at 39. Carolina, they got to see him probably locally. Josh Downs from UNC.
Ooh,
He
That's
that
I
could
interesting.
be an interesting
he
fit.
he is a my guy at this point.
Yeah,
I love this kid's tape.
yeah. Well, I mean, they're not going to get anyone in free agency because the Jets said mine to every wide receiver on the market.
Yeah, really. Like, who
They
is
said
left?
Aaron Rodgers
Odell?
is coming here,
Yeah,
where the wide receivers are.
yeah. Odell's the last one available, right? Like, it's
Odell's going to go to the Jets, and it's going to be ridiculous.
all right.
Yeah.
Let me give you free agency here just to see.
Can I add one more thing real quick?
Yeah, go for it.
Send
So
it.
I think to y'all's point, I would trade up for Najigba because you've already seen what Joe Burrow and Jamar Chase did in college and how that correlated to
Oh,
the
that's a
NFL. Same with Tua and Waddle
Oh,
and Hurts and Devontae Smith. I mean,
uh,
Stroud and Najigba played for one full year, and he had to share it with Olave and Garrett Wilson, who both were first round picks last year.
Alex,
And
that's a
he,
fantastic point. That is
yeah,
a fantastic point. I definitely think we have to consider. Now the question is, who would they like have to give up as far as, or like what the capital would be? But man,
Guys,
right.
so something just came out. Apparently, Foster Moreau is stepping away from football. He just got diagnosed with cancer.
no, really?
Oh,
Yeah,
Oh, I hate that for him.
man,
that is
I hate that for
wow.
him.
Prayers to
dang.
him that he's able
Yeah.
to come back. Hodgkin's.
Oh, Hodgkin's lymphoma. Dang. Oh man. Prayers go out to. That is quite. Yeah, prayers out to Fabian Moreau. That is not Fabian Moreau. Foster Moreau. That is. That's gut wrenching.
That is terrible. Yeah.
Yeah. That's awful for him. Well, I mean,
Man,
that does make the Raiders tight end situation very interesting.
Yeah.
But we wish him nothing but the best and hope that he gets the the best of the best care, especially dealing
Yeah.
with that.
For sure. For sure.
Um, I don't really have a fun transition to go to, but I'll say the free agent wide receivers that are left: Kenny Galladay, Chosen Anderson,
Oh.
Nelson Aguilar, DJ Chark, Marvin
Oh.
Jones, Julio Jones, Byron Pringle, AJ Green. Actually, no, AJ Green retired. Randall Cobb, future
Oh.
Jet. Jarvis Landry, T.Y. Hilton. Shall I continue?
Oh. Please stop. Actually. So there are no
So,
wide receivers. There are no wide receivers.
Alex, I think you're onto something by saying they're going to go get Njigba.
I think they
I would.
should.
I
That would
would.
really help
I
out
would.
Stroud.
If you know there was a guy in free agency who was like, whatever, because they're not going to trade for Hopkins. They don't have the capital anymore. They just
Yeah.
traded up to the first overall pick. So it's like, okay, we don't have the capital to trade for D Hop, but is it worth packaging some of our late day picks to go up a little bit from 39, go get somebody that's going to be really comfortable with CJ Stroud that we know is a dude, and he's probably going to fall a little bit just because after the run of QBs at the start of the draft, you're going to have your run of defensive players literally directly after that. And then
Yeah,
after
literally.
that, you're going to have your run at offensive linemen because there's only 3 of them worth taking. So
I,
that's going to happen directly after the defensive players.
I will tell you, I've kind of done a couple first round mock drafts on my own, and wide receivers the weirdest spot because from
Yeah,
like 8
they're
down you
all
can
going to
go,
fall.
yeah,
Yeah.
from 8 down you can go, I can see a receiver there, but then you can go, oh, but I have this maybe once every 5 years kind of defensive player here. I'm going to go for him. Like
Right.
you're
And
like,
that's the thing with Bijan too. That's so weird because Bijan's the best player in the draft, but he's going to fall outside of the
yeah,
top 15.
he's one of the best players. I mean, I will tell you right now, I think Zay Flowers to New England's a lock at 14. I think Tennessee has to figure out if they like Njigba or if they like Quentin Johnson, which I wouldn't
They're
do
going to
that,
go
but
Quentin Johnson.
they probably will. Good luck to you. I mean, Philly's probably going to go Brian Branch, the DB. I mean, I'm just going to kind of go Carolina QB, Houston QB, Arizona defensive player, Indy Anthony Richardson, Seattle defensive player,
Or Will Levis,
Detroit.
potentially get some.
Detroit's interesting. I initially had them a corner until they signed Johnson Gardner Johnson. So
I still haven't taken corner.
they signed Monty. I would like to see them like watch the world burn. And if you go like a Levis or something from that perspective, maybe. I doubt. I don't know though. I mean, Las Vegas Levis makes a lot of sense. And then Atlanta probably defense. Would you say that
100%
even?
defense. Most likely
Chicago,
Jalen Carter.
yeah, Chicago is going to be the offensive tackle. Philly is probably going to go corner, so Brian Branch. Um, Tennessee receiver. Jets can basically
Well,
do
wait, wait,
anything.
wait, wait. Philly might go Bijan at 10.
You think at 10?
Yes.
I think it's a
Mm,
better chance that you see them do it at 30.
They're,
I
they're,
would
meeting,
agree with that.
they're meeting with Bijan right now. He's not making it to 30. I will tell you that right now.
Who would take him?
That's a good question.
I have heard
Which
him to Dallas repeatedly over the
No,
my
it,
Cowboys news.
I could
I
see
mean,
Dallas taking them, but I
I
don't think
think that I'll be honest, I have always had Dallas taking a tackle.
Okay.
Yeah, we need
Um.
more depth at offensive
Yeah.
line.
All right. So here's what's weird. So Tennessee's not going to do it. Yeah, they're going to go offensive line. 12 is Houston. I could see them going offensive line as well, or secondary.
Yeah.
And then you
Dude,
have the Jets,
Ethan,
who aren't going to
Ethan,
go.
imagine Stingley and Christian Gonzalez.
Oh my. Oh God.
And
Or Stingley and Devin Witherspoon.
No, thank you. The Jets aren't going to take him because they have Michael Carter. New England's not going to take him because they're happy with Ramondre. I mean, New England.
However, Damian Harris did just sign with the Bills.
Yeah, but I
But
don't think
they won't do first round though. They won't do that. I think they'll go more edge or linebacker, especially since Donta Hightower just retired.
So. Green Bay's not. Washington just drafted a running back. They're not. Pittsburgh has Najee. They're not.
Najee, Tampa.
Detroit won't.
If Detroit didn't sign Monty, I think Detroit would have pulled the trigger.
Yeah. So Tampa Bay won't because they have. Actually, Tampa Bay could.
Tampa Bay would be the sneaky team, but they have too many holes, especially at DB.
Yeah.
yeah,
They have a weakness.
oh
They're happy with
no,
Walker.
okay, we know the team. It's the Chargers at 21.
I mean, it depends on Eckler. Like if
If
stays,
Eckler's
they
asking for a
won't.
trade, but then
But I think he's doing that for leverage. I think he's doing that to
Yeah.
leverage out his cash. And I don't know. I don't think any of these teams. Baltimore doesn't make sense. Minnesota doesn't make sense. Jacksonville doesn't make sense. New York doesn't make
doesn't
sense.
make sense.
Dallas could. Buffalo doesn't make sense. Cincinnati doesn't make sense. New Orleans maybe.
Cincy is a maybe, and the only reason why is because there has been talks of Joe Mixon not being on Cincy anymore.
So yeah, I'd say Dallas or Philly is who's going to take him.
Dallas, Philly, or Chargers, I would say, because I mean, also let's talk about it from this sense, but Kellen Moore now being the Chargers offensive coordinator, so I do think he was there to help run the ball because LA couldn't end a game if they wanted to last year, and that's how they blew a 27-point lead.
I wouldn't be surprised also because Kellen Moore is familiar with Zeke. If Zeke end up signing with LA.
Oh,
Yeah.
I didn't even think
boys,
about that. Well,
we-
here's why we went through that, Ethan.
We'll see. We'll see. Go ahead. Last thought, because we have something very important to do.
Well, it's because, Ethan, you need to figure out what to do with the 102. And bada bing, bada boom. Done.
A trade
There
is
we
now
go.
pending.
What
Let's
is
go.
that trade, Ethan?
What just happened, Josh?
Well,
What is this?
a trade is pending in our Dynasty
Whoa.
League.
A
and
trade?
Yeah, a trade. Actually, a very big trade. It's a 3-team trade between.
Oh wow, that's a lot of people.
That is a lot of people.
That's a lot of people. Josh, why don't you walk us through this trade?
Yeah, let me walk through this. So it's between me, Ethan, Alex. Oh, yeah, it's us 3.
Whoa, and we're all on the show together right now?
Coincidence? I think
This
not.
is wild.
So let's just say it's a much bigger trade between y'all two, but the trade ended up being this. Ethan receives Tyler Algier and the 102 and sends a person that we just mentioned, Austin Eckler, David Montgomery, and a 24 first-round pick. Alex then also gets also in this trade Brandon Ayuk, the 206 from me, and I pick up Jahan Dotson and a 24 third-round pick. So huge tidal wave just hit our Dynasty League. It's the first trade of the off season. So congratulations, everybody. We are currently awaiting words on any comments from the Dynasty Peanut Gallery
Yeah,
Um,
Alex has seen it. All right, Jacob's seen it. Tyler's seen it. Brian has not seen it yet.
Ryan has not seen it. Oh, he actually might be working.
Let me text him. I'm gonna text him. Whoa, Ryan and Trey just went down. Look at Sleeper.
Yeah, hold on. And yeah, I'm trying to see who's seen it so far, but
Oh, I think Ryan just saw it.
oh, did he just see it?
He's the one with the Vikings logo, right?
Yes,
Yes,
that
he
Yeah,
is
is.
Ryan.
he just saw it.
Hold on. All right, Ethan, you better keep the group chat on on. So, guys, I would say as a one last like awesome note to end a really good episode. Why did we make this trade?
I mean, I guess I'll go first.
Yeah, go for
I
it.
really need more running back depth because right now my top two running backs are DeAndre Swift and Ezekiel Elliott, and that's kind of troubling because
Ooh.
Zeke's not on a team, and DeAndre Swift is not even the number one option in Detroit. And so I've
Yeah,
needed more running backs, and most likely, like pretty much 99.999%, Bijan is the first overall pick, and so that doesn't really leave like a really flat out like good running back for me. And so that's why the 102 is shopping it.
Yeah,
yeah,
and kind of what we talked about too was like I was just talking very candidly with Alex, and I'm like, listen, man, you you don't need a quarterback. And look at the other talent that's going to be there at the 102 and like do they help you get better? Because it's like, does Quentin Johnson help you get better? Probably not. Does
probably.
Njigba help
Yeah,
you get better at the 102? Probably not. The only thing that helps out a team at the 102 is a QB.
yeah,
And if you don't need a QB, you have no business being at the top of the draft. And so that's just kind of what we were talking through of like, hey, you don't really need this. But what I can do for your team is give you one of the better running backs in the NFL that can help stabilize your team. I can give you depth at, a position that you need with a guy that will also impact your season because if Swift is the guy, awesome. If he goes down again like he has in the past, well, you've got Monty, so you're good to go. But if Monty's the guy and he takes over the Jamal Williams role, well, boom, there you go. You're going to have a fantasy starter right there in Monty, and maybe Monty and Swift figure it out. But at the end of the day, it's not going to hurt his team. He's just deferring almost to next year and saying, okay, what kind of talent is there going to be for me next year? Because where I'm at currently doesn't really help my team, is kind of where the premise of the trade came from.
yeah. And then just to kind of help sweeten the deal, I kind of jumped in because I would say for me, I love Ayuk. I think he can be a top receiver. I don't think he's fit on the fantasy side of things. I think as long as Debo's there, he will not be a top 20 receiver. And so for me, I went I'm going to bet on someone who I think can be. Yes, I'm kind of paying for it, especially just for the situation, but I definitely believe in Jahan Dotson. So I don't mind paying the second. I'll take the 24 third if things go weird. But yeah, I think this ended up being a really good trade for all of us.
Yeah, I think it made sense for all three of us. Like, you're getting a wide receiver that you're kind of betting on, but if it works out, it'll really help your team. Like, Alex is getting the depth that he needed. I'm getting the opportunity to go up and get a QB that I need, and I'm also getting a running back that I really believe in Tyler Algier. Not just because I'm a homer, but because I love him with all of my heart. So I think it just made sense for the three of us, and it took a lot of putting our heads together to figure out what would be fair and work for all of our teams. But I'm pretty happy with what we came up with.
Yeah, I'm definitely happy with it. Alex, I hope you're happy because
I
otherwise
I am
this
happy.
gets a very awkward episode.
No,
And to
I'm very
Josh and
happy.
Ethan, incredibly happy. Alex,
yeah,
nah,
No, I'm
not so
happy. I don't want to be in the 10th or ninth place anymore.
yeah, you better not. If you're in contention for the toilet bowl, the award will be named after you. If it's for a third year, like what do we say? One is a fluke, two is a coincidence, three is a pattern.
Yeah, so
Right.
you're at coincidence level right
Yeah,
now.
you are at a
I had to
coincidence.
do something to make sure it's not a pattern.
Got to do it. But I do appreciate that you always swing for the fences. Unfortunately, last year did not help you out
Did
whatsoever.
not
I
help
did
you at
not.
all whatsoever.
Yes,
I bet on
yeah,
Swift and was left
and
disappointed after,
yeah,
besides week 1.
and he
I was left
swiftly
disappointed.
chopped your legs off.
Yeah,
I'm surprised no reaction from Ryan.
Yeah, no reaction. I wonder why.
I think he's pissed.
probably.
Wait,
And,
Ethan,
and the
have you?
commissioner was too stunned to speak.
Uh, Ethan, would you like to explain the context of?
Yeah, so the context for Ryan is Ryan's been he's been trying to move Trevor Lawrence all offseason long. It's all he could talk about is moving Trevor Lawrence. And probably the only team that'd be willing to make a move for Trevor Lawrence would be me and my team. And so me and Ryan had talked about doing a trade, and it wasn't the worst trade in the world, but I definitely felt like he was asking just a little bit too much from me because he was asking for Eckler, he was asking for Isaiah Spiller, and he was also asking for Pittman. So it's like that's a big bet on the 107, the Miami backfield, and Trevor Lawrence. And again, it wasn't a bad trade. I felt like it was just a little bit too much for me to be comfortable with. So I was much more comfortable taking a chance on the 102 and drafting a QB, most likely CJ Stroud, and then keeping Pittman and then replacing Eckler with Algier, than kind of gambling on Trevor Lawrence and a wide receiver at 107. I felt like it would have just killed my running back room if I got rid of Eckler and had nothing in return for it.
Yeah, I would agree with that for you, especially since I was looking to also be involved in that trade as well, whether it's Ayuk or a
You're
different
trying to get
player.
in the way with me and Ryan's trade too, which is just hilarious. You're just trying to stir the
No,
pot.
I am not trying to stir the pot. I was trying to help you. Let it be clear
Yeah, that's
because
because you're a good friend, but you were
that's
also stirring the pot. That is
look, a good friend can do both, right?
like, we're done. That
We're-
is the coach's
yeah,
episode.
that is the coach's
Thank
episode.
you. Thank you for watching. I hope you took something from this. Thank you to our special guest, Alex, for being here. Josh, close us
Thanks
out.
for having me.
All righty. So, if you haven't followed us yet on any of our socials, just don't forget to hit us on all platforms: TikTok, Twitter, Instagram, Facebook at Last Place FP, and that is also our YouTube handle as well. And then you could kind of see some kind of like quick hits, some shorts, some reels, and just kind of get our idea as we kind of go
Oh yeah,
through the off season here.
we're
We
getting
have
fancy with it, y'all.
Oh yeah, getting real fancy. It's called We Have More Time to Do It. And now, next week we're gonna have our free agency, our complete breakdown of all the craziness that has happened.
Yeah,
I don't.
definitely be here for that one.
We've already done one emergency podcast. Hopefully, we don't have to do any more. We'll see what happens there. And then we are leading ourselves towards the NFL draft. So you're going to see a lot more rookie reviews. Be prepared. We are trying to do something special for the NFL draft. We're just kind of planning everything out at the moment. But in the meantime, thank you all for listening to the Last Place Fantasy Football Podcast. Ethan, hit him with the quote.
This is going to be the most painful time I say this for one person in particular. But never forget, sometimes you're right. Sometimes you're Ryan. Have a good
Have
day.
a good one, everybody.